The corpse towers in murder drones don't really make any sense. For some elaboration before I explain what's exactly wrong with them from a narrative and logical standpoint, I need to provide some context as to why I'm even talking about this in the first place. Normally my homeboy Wizard would make a video on something like this, but given he's too busy right now and doesn't particularly care about this topic, I decided to talk about it myself given how extensively this damages the show's narrative on its own when you actually think about it, in any depth at all, which I'm now going to get into. Firstly, from a purely tactical logical standpoint, the corpse towers the MDs live in are absolutely atrocious. Because not only do these structures mark out exactly where they're hiding, but they are incredibly easy to attack in a way that would pretty much kill every disassembly drone inside. How though? Simple, it's established that solver drones, MDs included, are going to die very quickly if they enter sunlight, which is said by N in episode 1 and hinted further in episode 4 when Uzi's hand touches sunlight and begins to burn. Meaning they literally can't leave the corpse tower during the day, making it extremely easy to destroy during that time. Because all you would realistically need to do is build some crappy cannons, mortars, or a few rocket rounds or an RPG or something, and blow up from the top, causing the roof to collapse, exposing the MDs inside to sunlight, which will kill them. Alternatively, Uzi, given that her railgun has a tendency to explode, could have instead made explosive charges from the same components, and carrying this out before her solver activated, going outside during the day, planting said explosives and then blowing the tower, causing it to collapse. Instead of pissing around with building the railgun, going out at night to get the part, which causes the MDs to follow her and get inside. Not just that, but they could have easily prepared for this ahead of time, given that it's established Nori was seeing visions of the disassembly drones before they even arrived, which she referred to as sky demons and her nightmares of dangerous singularities. Alongside that, she goes on to tell Khan about them and to build doors to shelter them from these creatures, said visions quickly being proven true when the MDs arrive to begin their rampage, which is also evident and backed up by her schizophrenic drawings we see of her visions. This means that they knew exactly what was coming, yet they decided not to build any sort of weapon or even countermeasure to even account for the possible off chance that the doors didn't get done in time and the MDs actively got in. Which brings me onto the story narrative standpoint of the issue. They knew the MDs were coming, they had time to prepare, and we see drawings of the corpse towers, meaning they likely knew the MDs couldn't go into sunlight or at least would be camped out in said towers. So if that's the case, why not create a single offensive or even defensive countermeasure? And sure, while the worker defense force exists, they don't even count as a form of defense at all. They're wiped out in a mere moment, Khan not even arming them to begin with. Regardless, they were all given a pre-warning of what they were and where they would be. And never once did they ever consider arming themselves to deal with the issue. With actual fucking weapons. No, they just use a door and die pathetically when they get in. If anything, Uzi making the railgun is the only time we see a drone actively decide to do this. But that's essentially useless given the part she needed was outside in the MD lair. And nobody, not one beforehand, even considered making any weapon until many years after the MDs arrived. Like, not even a simple pipe gun or a basic whacking stick, just nothing. Which is extremely, absolutely brain dead if you ask me. Hell, when the murder drones do actually get in, with the exception of Uzi, Fad is one of the only people who actually tries to fight back with a steel pipe. Sure, it didn't work out, but he's the only one who actually took initiative and tried to do anything. Not just that, but hypothetically speaking, if they actually made countermeasures like explosives, rockets, mortars, whatever, and assuming we're not relying entirely on Uzi to do this for some reason, then all it would take is a basic coordinated daytime effort to eradicate the murder drones, who would be realistically unable to fight back due to the sun trapping them within their tower. Even then, collapsing the tower itself shouldn't be hard, given it's made from drone corpses, which don't seem to be extremely sturdy given the awkward shape. If anything, it raises a question of how said tower is even standing in the first place, because I don't see anything actually holding the tower together apart from a few cables on the outside tying it to nearby buildings. Unless either the limbs of the drones are tangled together or the murder drones use their nanite tails to melt the bodies together and saliva to solidify it. But really, that's just a guess because we don't really see any of that. Besides that, if we actually take all of this into consideration again, it means they had pre-knowledge the MDs were coming and would use the corpse towers as their lairs. Yet nobody except Uzi decides to create a single offensive measure with the intention of actually going out and killing them. And not a single drone comes up with this idea over the many years N and Uzi have existed for. The exact number I don't know, but the fact none of them come up with this in all that time says a lot. Even then, there's no need for a railgun specifically, all you need is the aforementioned explosives and to collapse the tower at most, which would either expose the MDs inside to sunlight or the tower would fall and crush them. It's really that fucking simple, yet nobody thinks of this for some reason. Now, if the MDs instead burrowed underground or something, hiding in caves filled and lined with corpses, then I would understand. Because it wouldn't just be a case of finding the lair, but also mapping it out to even begin planting explosives to blow it open. Still, even then, going in manually is not even necessary. You could just send in a remote drone and use that to map out the space, or deliver explosives remotely while the MDs are asleep. That I could actually forgive because of actually one, finding the lair and the effort it would take to even execute such a plan. Plus any failed attempt making the MDs aware and very cautious of any form of intruder in this hypothetical alternate scenario. But it also makes me realize, you don't even need to send worker drones to blow up the tower. Literally just cheap flying drones with bombs on them, deployed remotely while the MDs sleep, would get the same result with minimal risk. Which just makes the issue so much worse, because they were pre-warned of an impending issue, and they do essentially nothing to fix it when they damn well clearly have the materials to do so, evident from Uzi's exploding railgun even being built in the first place. Which means they have the materials and means to make weapons but simply don't. Which later results in the entire WDF being killed in the events of the series to begin. Honestly, the more I think about this, the more I realize just how stupid the Corpse Tower is as an idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Corpse Tower is a cool concept, it shows just how lethal the disassembly drones actually are. They're so lethal they're able to make their entire lair out of the actual corpses of their victims. However, it paradoxically makes the worker drones look absolutely fucking stupid. Hell, now that I think about it, while it would be generally easier and less resource intense for the MDs to dig out a lair like mentioned earlier, even better, they could just use one of the pre-existing buildings around them as a base. Or find the basement of an old abandoned building on Copper 9 and make that into the lair, digging to expand it and reach underground to other places if needed. Which would make the disassembly drones even harder to find as the lair is hidden in one of the countless possible locations. Which would make it even more justifiable for the workers in the bunker to struggle against the MDs because of how nigh impossible it would be to actually find where they're camping out, let alone even destroy their base. But no, instead we get a fully exposed, out in the open tower that can easily be destroyed and they do absolutely nothing about it. For years. Which honestly, the more I actually sit down and think about this, the more I realize just how absolutely forced and careless the entire plot of Murder Drones actually is, or at least that's how it feels to me. Seriously, even Alice, who appears for a singular episode, causes giant plot holes and continuity issues that make her very existence and what she says and her motivations throughout the entire episode illogical and impossible, given the way the story and world is set up around her. Alice simply does not fit into the story or world when you actually sit down and think about the things she's associated with, which was already covered extensively by another YouTuber I forget the name of. The overall feels forced, contrived, and overall baseless to me. And these corpse towers are a similar issue in their own way, so as the response to the MDs. It all feels again forced, contrived, and has little backing it. Plus, honestly, the corpse towers don't serve much of a practical purpose plot-wise, beyond shelter and oil storage. Its existence is pretty much just aesthetics at best, and makes the world building feel nonsensical at worst. Also, we don't even get a valid logical reason in universe as to why they don't arm the WDF, or bother with any form of internal defenses, let alone offensive weapons. Like, yeah, the doors keep the MDs out, but they can get in, and they do. So relying 100% on the doors is not only completely illogical, it just puts the colony at excess risk. And keep in mind, these worker drones are supposed to be terrified of the MDs outside, yet they do nothing to prepare for a possible break-in either. Even a basic autogun or turret behind the doors in case they got in would be better than a few entirely unarmed people, yet that doesn't even register to Khan as an idea. Honestly, you know what, I'm gonna cut that off here, or else we're gonna be here all day, dissecting how Murder Drone's plot is unnecessarily contrived and forced in various other aspects. Besides that, in summary, the corpse towers the MDs live in and response to their presence is contrived with nothing really backing it, and the logic holding it together quickly falls apart the moment you actually start questioning it. Seriously, the only thing actually holding the logic of the Murder Drones universe together is people's headcanons, and that's not a good sign. It shows that Liam had probably plenty of ideas for this series but never really got to develop them in a way where they actually became cohesive, either due to the 8-episode limit or just not having the passion. Hell, the problems affecting the corpse tower can also be said for other aspects of the show, like episode 8 in its entirety, Alice's entire character, Nori's existence and the fact that she barely plays a role whatsoever, Yiva really just not existing as far as the plot is concerned, etc, etc, etc. Most of which have already been covered extensively by other channels, my friend Wizard having recently talked about Doll too, which honestly I recommend you go check out that video, it's really fucking good. So you know what, that's all I have to say, I'll just end the video here, goodbye.